So I have with me Mariano Sciaroni, and author of several books now on
Okay.
the Falklands Malvinas conflict. Of course, your previous two books were concentrated on ASW operations for both sides during the conflict. So one of my first questions actually is related to that. Why Handbrake? Why the love of aviation? Where did your impetus come from to work on this new book, which of course is, you can see behind me, Handbrake. So what made you want to jump into this book?
Well, first of all, hi Peter, how are you?
Good. Yeah.
And well, in fact, Ilion asked me for a book about the Super Etendard Squadron. At first, I say, well, this is a well-known history, so why writes
Mm-hmm.
about this? Because everyone knows about that squadron, the Exocet, the Super Etendard. And but Ilion insisted, well, maybe you could write a comprehensive story or a whole story about the squadron, not about the war, but about the origins and the current history of the squadron. And I said, well, this is interesting. And in fact, when I started writing about the squadron, I discovered that the complete history was never written. It was is well, this part of the story is hidden. This part of the story, well, nobody talks or writes about this. The part of the training in France, the French technicians, the conflicts between Captain Colombo, the squadron leader, and his superiors in the war. That is not in other books. Well, the French connection is very sensitive even now. The conflicts between Colombo and his superiors is, well, nobody wants to talk about the miseries of the war, the fights, the superiors saying, well, you need to accomplish this mission. Colombo say, well, no, and you want to you want to attack me. Well, I'm resigning here. This part of the war, well, it's very common in any war, no, that kind of
Mm-hmm.
conflict between humans in the line of command. But well, I think that the I'm, I'm very satisfied with the
Mm-hmm.
book because
Yeah, I felt.
yeah, you say, and more important for me, we with Alejandro went to Captain Colombo house, and Captain Colombo is of course retired right now, and we give a book, and he read the book overnight and say, well, this is the best history of the squadron I ever read. In fact, in any language. So congratulations. So
Right.
well, yes, well, I'm relieved first of all, and second one, I was over proud this year. Yeah,
Right.
well,
Yeah, and I think you should. I definitely think you should be. There's a lot of personality in the book, I guess. And it comes through with it. It's more of a narrative, I guess would be the way to put it. I think that you framed the missions well, from a narrative perspective, why they were doing it, why they were taking certain precautions, and I think that came out really nicely, especially with Columbo's. I really liked hearing their stipulations, right? They're kind of like litmus for whether or not they wanted to go forward with a mission. I thought that was really insightful, and it offered a lot of clarity, kind of like retroactive clarity on why certain things were done, and and why certain things were not done or not attempted. I I also liked, and I'm getting ahead of myself maybe, but later in the book, I really liked how you presented the attempts at cooperation as well, because I think in previous book and previous histories, the negative aspects of that have been highlighted more than the positive attempts at cooperation. In other words, a lot of us, like, pseudo historians, war gamers, have always tried to think in our brain what we would do, what ifs and so forth. And I think by going mission by mission and really describing the why, the whys, and then the hows, especially for me, I really enjoyed all of the detail around the tankers, right? And also the radio operations, like just even some of the radio, transmission rules that they used and so forth. Of course they make sense, but you really pieced together a lot of information. And from what I could tell, just in reading it, it seemed like you were taking a lot of information from a lot of different resources. So one of my first questions would be, um, how did you approach it? How did you approach each mission? Did you start with one resource and then do your best to fill in the blanks with personal interviews? What was your process?
Well, the first things we did with Alejandro was we went to Colombo houses, to Captain Colombo houses, and says, well, we are going to write a book about your squadron. What do you think? What is relevant? What do you think we could what is the key points about the history, about this history? And they say, well, the key points, in my opinion, is this one, this one, this one. Well, the second we did is we went to the National Archives in the UK, and we collect all the files regarding the Exocet attacks, and all the logs of the books, and we have a huge collection of UK archives. And then I went in this case, I went personally to the Armada Argentina's archive, and I collect all the files regarding the second squadron. With all these informations, well, we start to write the history, and we start to interview certain personalities. I think I interview most of the pilots except one, and a French technician, and several non-commissioned officers in the Argentine Army, people of other squadrons, Air Force pilots, non-Navy pilots, related so the people who share the base, the Rio Grande base with the Navy pilots. And well, with all that information, I think that we write every chapter, and of course, after writing every chapter, we erase every chapter and start it again several times. It's very frustrating to write. So in the first instance, you say, well, this is great, and you go to sleep, and and in the morning you say, well, this is crap. I need to rewrite everything. And well, yes, it is on. No, well, so it's a process of write, rewrite, write, rewrite, and of course, in key points of the book, it is very frustrating. For example, the part of the Exocet, and who is the key person in make the Exocets ready to launch, because the French technicians are very clear that they are the key people in that process. The NCOs of the Argentina Navy say, no, 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 we are the key people. The officers of the Argentinian Navy say, no, no, we are the key people. So, in fact, you hear to one story say, well, and write, well, the key people in these stories, and you heard the other bell and say, well, no. And in fact, in the chapter about the exocets and being ready, the missiles is a compromise between all the info we collected in this area. So, well, it's a long process to write, rewrite, correct. And well,
I did have one question about that chapter in particular, related to the operational reliability of the Exocet. I really liked the detail you gave. First of all, about how they were handled, and I guess what I was one of my questions was more technical around what degraded. Like it was mentioned that the missiles were of course kept in boxes and specialized containers and so forth. What was it that would deteriorate over time? There was kind of there was an impression that there was a certain like half-life almost with is it the calibration? It was the calibration of the missiles that would deteriorate over time. Is that is that clear?
yes, the missiles deteriorates over time. So well, you had to put the missile in a bank every certain hours or certain operations. But do you are you speaking about the initial missile, the initial test when the missiles
Well,
arrive
it
to
sounded
Argentina,
it
or after every mission of
kind of well both, right. So there's all the way that you had described it, with the way it was described in that chapter. I think it was chapter 1 or 2. Was that they obviously had to get them operational, and you described that very well, what it took to get it operational, and then to even test it with which was awesome. I really loved all the technical detail. Was awesome. How you basically had to calibrate it almost with a simulator, right? So and then at some point, once it was calibrated, it sounded like they were stored in their own specialized containers.
yes, a
And
pressurized container.
then so what, I guess my question then would be, like, let's say there was a mission and it was aborted, right? What about the Exocet's operational reliability would degrade after that mission was aborted?
After two aborted missions, so if you load the exocets in the plane and you
Right.
depart with the plane and you land and you start that process over again, if you did that, the missile is considered not operational. So you must go check the missile, not the warhead, just the guidance part of the
Mm,
missile in
mm.
a bank test. So,
Right. So
but
is that a calibration? I would almost have thought that calibration would only be able to be done in tandem with the Etendard itself. Like, in other words, how do I put it? Like, so is there not? There also is a final calibration with the firing radar, right? The fire control radar as well, correct? So is it also calibrating with the navigational system?
yes, the missile when it was loading the plane is
Right.
checked with an ARINC
Okay.
suitcase or
Okay.
ARINC test bank. It's a portable one, so the missile is checked there, but the test is not very comprehensive, like in a bank in a huge installation,
Mm,
and the missile is checked itself and it's the dialogue with the computer, the Super Etendard computer, especially not with the computer, especially with the inertial navigation
yeah,
system.
that's what I was getting at. Yeah, perfect.
So the two
Yeah.
the two the two navigational systems, the missile and the plane navigation system, are checked and compared. When the missile say when that dialogue it's okay, the bank test, the portable bank test say, well, okay, we are ready for the mission. But have in mind that this is in the spot test. The
Right.
composite test of the guidance system is
Right.
made in Puerto Belgrano,
Hmm.
was not made in Rio Grande base. The installations in Rio Grande are primitive and limited. The huge tests are in the Puerto Belgrano naval base,
Interesting.
miles north.
Right. Very good. Um, So we can kind of get into the book here a little bit. I'm trying to go back to your the chapter by chapter here, and just obviously which missions did you have the most difficulty in piecing together information around?
Yeah. Well, I think the most controversial mission in the history of the world is the
30th.
last mission, the
Yeah.
mission against Invincible or the Carrier Battle Group or whatever, is very difficult to to put together because the input for both sides are very different. And that mission is still very controversial in Argentina, very controversial. For certain people, writing that the Invincible was not attacked, or for certain people, even it's not even sunk, will say, yeah, you're a spy, or you are,
Right.
well, this is very controversial. Well, so it's very difficult to put the mission together. So, well, in the chapters of the book, the mission is divided. Well, this is what the Air Force, Argentina Air Force pilots says, and this
Mhm.
is what the
Yeah, I
task
like how
force
you.
says.
I
Well,
found. I thought that you split it up well. I thought I thought you spoke about the parts that could be spoken about with most clarity well, and you could tell what those were. And then you didn't skirt you didn't
yeah,
skirt the issue, but you presented the information and you said, well, this is the way it looks this way, and this is the way it looks this way. And then just kind of like as a third party reader, I'm like, hey, they saw something, right? Uh, that's the way. That's been my resolution throughout the years. Is just, hey, they saw something, they thought it was something, they almost hit it, regardless of what it was, and they were pretty darn close to the task force, right? I,
yes,
I think in all of those regards, it was, I would say, quotation, a successful mission in the fact that they they penetrated the defenses of the task force. So whatever happened after that, it's somewhat inconsequential from my perspective, at least.
now
But I thought you remained accurate throughout as much as you could. So
no, but have in mind, this is a very interesting mission. Is made with single engine planes over the ocean,
yeah,
involving multiple air refuelings. The targeting was involved a Soviet satellite, giving the info about the information of the fleet. Well, it's an Air Force Navy mission, so it's very interesting mission, but
I,
it's
I
very
thought it.
controversial.
I thought that mission in particular, and I think you expressed it well. I felt like you showed how the British were improving in some ways, in many ways, by that
Yes,
time, as well as their equipment was improving and their use of the equipment, and both. So I think, to summarize that mission is that it was a close call. It was a close call, no matter what it was,
yeah,
no matter what happened. That was a pretty darn successful mission from the perspective of what was involved, and how close it probably came to potential disaster for. I think what it did highlight is the fact that in most of these situations, there's a little bit of lot. There's a good amount of just chance involved, right? There's a there's a lot of courage, of course. There's a lot of technology, and there's still a pretty good amount of chance involved as far as what systems pick up on what, and
yes,
and the reliability thereof. Because even in this mission, there were clearly missiles that wholly missed, right, and so forth. So it's very interesting. The one other thing I will comment about the whole book: did you? I don't know. It's just physically produced. I don't know if they used a different distributor or manufacturer, but it's put together well, I guess is the way to put it as well. I don't know what it is about it. It's just a little bit. Do you agree as well?
No, yes, yes. Well, first of all, it's in full color, and
Yes. Yeah.
second one, I think the paper
Yeah.
is thicker. I think
Yes. Just a little
yes,
bit. Yeah. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So,
When I touched the book first, I say, well,
yes. So this is really good. This says
this is very
it
good.
smells.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes.
Hey, it
That
smells
was
good too.
that was
Um,
my impression too. So no,
yeah.
yes, I'm very pleased with
Yeah.
the
Absolutely.
final
Yeah. And the
book.
color
Yes.
just. Um. I mean, did you also utilize a different translator as well? Was it originally written in Spanish?
No, no, no,
No.
no. This is first made
Okay.
in English.
Okay.
So now, well,
Did you approach that aspect at all differently? Because I felt like you know it felt just more natural. It felt very well written from an English perspective, and that's from somebody who may be a primary writer in English, but I don't write well either. I know it's written very. It's just it comes off a little bit more just more like just natural English than.
no. Thanks. Really,
No, it's really good. I hope that is a I hope you take that as a
we write
compliment.
we write the book in English, but I'm not bilingual, and we send the book to a translator, a
Yeah,
certified translator
right.
here in Argentina, and well, she made a lot of corrections. Well, I say, of course, she's the professional, so
Hmm.
well, and also I sent the book to John Shields, the author, John, a
Hmm.
friend. John made I think the best book of the world last year. You
Yes,
know that
sure. John
John book?
Shields. Yeah.
John Shields, yes, he's currently in the US. Um, he's a very good chap, and he made a lot of corrections, especially regarding technical
Okay.
vocabulary and
Okay.
technicalities. So I'm very grateful to John because he make he was very good with me and the book. So if the book reads naturally, well, he's
Yeah.
because of John's and the translator. He's because Manuela.
One of the best images in here, I have to say, is the radar envelopes one on page 23. By the way, it's probably one of the best, and I don't know if you want me to show it or not, but it's where you're showing how the aircraft come in under the radar envelopes.
Okay,
Yeah,
yes.
but it's really well. It's just I don't know. It's one of the most perfect images I've ever seen explaining it. I don't know if it's just the color choices or what, but it just it just really pops and it really explains how the fire control. I really like how you also included the fire control radar in it too. So I thought that was a nice touch as well.
Uh, he that image was originally not this improved version. A more basic version was part of the official report of the Argentinian
Okay,
Navy, saying
interesting.
that well, we need to attack in this way to be below the radar coverage. So it's really accurate, and mostly because the Argentina have the same radars used
Right, right.
by the
Yeah, I
British.
like how you explain that. And
So that part in the war was part of a very secret document of, given to Argentinian pilots. Say, well, stay below this radar coverage. So
I felt that you had also integrated a lot of good information from the radar, the radar Malvinas CIC. I thought, had you, are there any other researchers that you also, beyond talking directly with the squadron, did you happen to maybe even talk to the radar operator that administrates the radar Malvinas site and so forth? Because you had shown me South Atlantic War 3 book, and that was the first time when I read that source book, that was the first time I was introduced to that Radar Malvinas website, which is absolutely incredible, by the way. I
Yes.
assume the primary material on there, I've literally gone in and tried to translate it. It's just such really good primary information. But did you ever communicate or interview,
Yeah,
do
yes, I interviewed by email several times to Miguel Angel Silva, who's the leader of the Argentinian Air Force team in the islands. So yes, and the his website, it was is really really superb. It's very well done, very organized, and have in mind that Miguel Angel Silva writes several books about electronic warfare, published here and in Europe. So he's a good professional and a good writer. So
hmm
this is very
Yeah.
interesting. The way he present the information and well, this is very interesting. Have in mind that in that war, the Navy and Air Force was separated in several instances. So the info used by the second squadron was obtained by the radar, but processed in the islands by a small Navy team. So the info the second squadron receives is not directly from the Argentinian radar, but is elaborated by the small team in the capital of the islands by a small Navy team. So the movement, the aircraft movements, the ships movements was processed by that team, that Navy team. So in fact, if the info came directly from the Air Force, the Navy, first opinion was say no. Well, this is not accurate, not interesting, but it's filtered by the own person, by Navy. The Navy said, well, this came from our own people. Oh, that's the way that the thing happened in that war. Sadly,
Yeah, you just reminded me another. I like your coverage of the third party information quotation marks from
Mhm.
the likely from the Soviets at the time. Um, did you run into any you know did you run into any information in regards to that you hadn't known before, as far as any new information? I think you had mentioned it in previous books, of course, too, but did you happen to run into any newer intelligence about that cooperation during writing this book?
Well, yes, like 2 3 weeks ago, I was reading a very highly classified memo about the intelligence of the war, and in a part of that memo says certain information came from a Bear aircraft operating from Luanda, but this is well, this information came from this source. I say, well, you know that in intelligence summaries or intelligence reports, the source is mostly hidden. You say,
Right.
well, this is valoration A1, B2, or whatever, but it's not very common that say, well, the source is this one. In this memo, the source was put here to say, well, this is from a bear operating from Rwanda. It's the first time I saw in an official paper that
Mm-hmm.
certain information came from the Soviets,
Mm-hmm.
exactly from Soviet. Certain people told me in the past, well, this info came from the Soviet embassy,
Well,
from a satellite, but
right.
the first document I read that, well,
For some reason, I remember from one of your previous books. I think I hope it was one of your previous books. I've read the whole series, of course. They're all kind of together. But I do believe that we had at least intelligence of extra launches and extra, like, I believe it might even have been U.S. intelligence of this, of rerouting satellites and so forth that was occurring during the conflict, of course. So you have to. I mean, there's obviously some putting one and one together, that they were watching it very closely.
yes,
Now,
yes.
whether they gave all the information they had, of course, is a completely different story. And I don't know if these were, I don't know if like I don't know if Roarsat satellites were being used at all. I don't know necessarily which types of satellites they were using at the time in that theater. But yeah, it's always an interesting topic. And speaking of topics, I remember I remember speaking to you before about the potential of writing a book or some articles at least on more a little bit more on like U.S. and Soviet third party. Um,
Yes, I have my one of my thesis of the well, I had a I have a degree in the army, in the army school, about the contemporary warfare, and my thesis was about the Soviet collaboration with Argentina and U.S. collaboration with the UK. And well, I write several articles also regarding that topic. That is very fascinating to me because,
right.
well, because I'm still puzzled or intriguing about the submarines in the area. Do you know that you have the other books?
Right.
You know that the Argentinians attacks several
Something.
contacts,
Right.
and the British forces did the same with several contacts, and they are very positive. The Argentinians and the British that they are not whales, not fish, not no, that they are submarines. So
Hmm.
I'm still dreaming that that's a submarine really there. Of course, the culprit is the main culprit is the Soviet Union. So well, I'm still trying to resolve that puzzle. Well, I don't
So
know.
this leads very well into the question of where do you see yourself going next? Where do you, was is there any particular aspect? Every time you research and write a book, of course, you probably already have an idea for another book. Um, where is your mind at right now? Where do you think? Are there still stories to tell? And where do you feel like your passion will lead you in that regards?
Well, I have several ideas for a new book, but very in the very initial stage. No, I really want to write about several encounters the Argentinian Navy had with uh, submarines in the late 50s,
Mm,
first of the in the 70s, in the 60s also. That and the Argentina Navy attacked with a full force, even planes and dropping guided torpedoes and having U.S. assistance, and the Argentinian Navy was very positive at the time that one or two submarines are there, and in fact the U.S. Navy was very positive that the submarines are there. That's a very interesting story to write about, and I think another topic to cover was Argentinian anti-air defenses in the war. So the fight with the British planes
hmm.
is a joint effort because the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army has a centralized command, anti-air command, and they did a good and professional job. So maybe it's interesting to cover the topics because, well, have the human part, the collaboration with service, and also the very technical part, how to use missiles and radar guided guns against modern fighters, and how that the modern fighters and bombers try to use electronic countermeasures to attack, and the British intelligence and info using that info and intelligence against Argentinian defenses is is I think this will be a very interesting book, and an actual book because the is a current topic, the anti-air defenses, modern anti-air defenses against planes. So I think maybe it will be a good book about this. It's an idea. I'm not
Hmm.
not even Ilion asked me, well, what's next, and say, well, let me think about this. And
Hmm.
I'm still thinking, but I think that the two topics will be very interesting to cover.
Do you feel like there are any other particular squadrons, if you will, that warrant addition? Maybe not even maybe not necessarily by yourself, but do you feel like there are any air squadrons that might, benefit from from a similar level of detail, like maybe some of the Dagger squadrons, the Mirage squadrons? I know. I remember. I can't remember the individual who was he was a technician, and he recently did a talk in the UK for the RAF museum, and it was fascinating, right? Because I feel like the Daggers and the Mirages would
Guillermo
benefit
Posada.
from an equal. So you can at least either you can write it, or you can convince Santiago Rivas to write it, or John, right? So, speaking of, have you ever considered doing like a cooperative book with even like John Shields or somebody? Have you ever talked to
Well,
them about?
I don't know. John is currently involved in a project regarding a World War II pilot.
Mm,
And have in mind that John is also a serving officer, so
mm-hmm.
his sport time is limited. And with Santiago, we had a good relation, but I never asked him to do that together.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about the books about the war, I think Skyhawk, the Skyhawk book, Santiago's Skyhawk books is very good. Also published by Ilion. Yeah, the book is highly recommended. So I think the Dagger Squadron or the Mirage 3 Squadron, histories are not
Are
very
yet to be written.
yet to write them.
Yeah.
Yes, I really like to write. I did to write right now to read about the Mirage
Yeah.
3
Sure.
Squadron,
Right.
because the Mirage 3 Squadron of the Air Force, Argentinian Air Force, was the elite squadron of the war of the Air Force, but it seems like the participation of that squadron in the war was limited. Had that an skirmish and the first aid of the hostilities, and then it looks like that the squadron was not involved in operation. I think it's a hidden story there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, well, in fact, I was reading about the plans, the Argentinian plans to intercept Vulcan bombers in the middle of the Atlantic, also with a Soviet hint. And this is an interesting story also.
I've been meaning to ask you about that. Yeah, and I can't remember if you. Yeah, I think you even mentioned it in here. Like, so um, there were plans to try to intercept the inbound amphibious cruise ships, right? So the QE, the QE2, right?
Yes.
So, what? I mean, how close were they to considering it? I thought you covered it very well, but is there more to that story at all? Is there potentially anything
That,
hidden?
that history is not very well known.
Okay.
The history between this is that the Comando de Aviación Naval, the command, the aviation naval aviation command, ordered the second squadron to plan and to attack the QE2 in the middle of the Atlantic.
Right.
And the first reaction was, no, we are not going to do that. No, this is an order, and we are not going to accomplish this order.
Right, and now
Yes,
I'm remembering.
And the commander say, well, do you want to be relieved of the command? I don't care. Do you want to relieve me? Be my guest. So at the end, the mission was never planned or ordered, but the Naval Aviation Command was
And the
positive
main
that the order was to attack the plane in the middle of Atlantic, and the key answer said yes, no, well, we have not the endurance to do that. No, you are going to have the two tankers available. No, my oil tank has no endurance to do that.
That's right.
So
That's right.
even if you refuel me a million of times, my oil is going my oil tank is going to be empty in the middle of the Atlantic. So you are going to
Probably
lose
lose the
two
aircraft.
pilots and
Yeah.
two planes in the middle of nowhere. So
This
don't
is-
insist.
I
Well,
love
yeah,
I love that level of detail you got to, by the way, and that's and I think I'll use that as a closing point, and that would be a reason to go buy Handbrake
well,
by
thanks.
Mario. You like that? Dovetail right into it. But no, seriously, uh, one of the best books I've ever read.
Oh well, thanks.
No, I mean that wholeheartedly. It's of course from a nonfiction perspective, but just literally, I think it even reads well almost as a story. And then of course, a very factually well researched story, of course, but it just reads well. I'm a very lazy reader, and I read this in probably 2 days, which
Oh,
is a
thanks.
just it was I couldn't put it down. And it's rare. It's kind of rare to say that about a nonfiction book, but it literally was a page turner, right?
Well,
And I think a lot of that comes from there was a balance to it. Of course, visually as well, well documented, well illustrated, well written as well, and that of course just made it that much easier to just just go right through. But I think you should be proud of it. Again, it's one of the best history books I've ever read. So
well, thank you.
yeah, it was good. I think we will wrap it up there, but I look forward to hopefully many more books from you. And I'm going to keep on bothering you until you do. So,
Yeah, no.
so
What do you want to read?
well, I'm interested. I'm definitely interested in more in the what the U.S. knew and what they were providing, and potentially even what they're possibly even holding back. Right? They're not listening to me right now, are they? But you got to watch out. But yeah. So yeah, if you ever need somebody to go find you a research paper or something from Congress or something, tell me and I'll go get it for you or something. All right. So
Thanks.
all right. We will wrap up there, but thank you again, Mariano. Always a
Yeah.
pleasure to talk to you, and
Thank you, Peter.
a great book. Please go buy it. So.
Thank you, Peter. Thanks a lot.